Welcome to my channel. If you like my videos, then kindly subscribe, like and watch. Thank you. Okay, let's start with chapter number 4, that is about pure bending. So in this chapter we will discuss about what is pure bending, other type of loading that are applied on the beam, then symmetric members in pure bending, then we will discuss about bending deformation, strain due to bending, and then we will a little bit discuss about beam section properties, property of American standard shapes, deformation in transverse section. Then at the end we will have a sample problem 4.2, and in part 2 of this lecture we will discuss the bending of member that is made up of several material, for example composite beams, and then their example. So let's start with what is pure bending. So whenever a beam is applied, for example I will show you over here that, for example, this is the beam and this is applied, this is for example supported at the end, and there is a force applied in the mid of the beam, or stress is applied, or force that is applied. So due to this force there will be reaction forces at the end. For example, this is reaction RA and this is reaction RB. Clear? So RA will be equal to half of F, and this will be also half of F. How we will find this? We will find it by using the equation sum of all force along y direction is equal to 0, and sum of the moment that is equal to 0, and let the length, total length is L, and the beam is symmetrical because half the force is applied on the mid of the beam, that is half of L. So the beam is symmetrical because the loading on this side is same as that of this. So in short I just write RA is half of F and RA is half of F. Now you can see that if we cut the beam at this point, or at if we cut the beam at this point, so definitely you can see this is the force and this is the reaction force. Clear? So let me zoom it. This is the force and this is also force, and it produce couple. For example, if we take this section, so there is a force and this reaction force, and this reaction force produce movement or couple in a rotation. Clear? So due to this loads or due to the couple, there will be a bending in this beam. Just like in below example, you can see that there is a weightlifter and she has left some weight. So you can see that the weight of this will act downward, while the second end the weight will act downward, and this force is acting in upward direction. So if I assume this beam over here, for example these are the load 80 pound loads that is acting downward, 80 pound, and similarly this 80 pound is acting downward. Now these are the reaction force, that is RC for example, and this is RD, and these are, for example, these are not known, and this is the total distance, that is 12 inch from this support to this support, it is 26 inch, and again this is 12 inch. So you have to find this reaction forces RC and RB. So by using this equation, sum of all forces along y direction is equal to 0. So minus 80 plus RC plus RD, this is RD, minus 80, their sum must be equal to 0. So we can see that RC plus RD, that will be equal to 160 pound. Clear? So this is the one equation. By using this equation we cannot find two unknowns. So we will apply moment equation as well. So let this is point A, this is point B. So you can take the moment at any point B, A or B. So when you applied the moment, let apply this as well. The moment about point A must be equal to 0 and counterclockwise is taken as positive. So the first force that is producing moment is RC multiplied by 12 inch and it is producing a counterclockwise. So RC into 12 inch. This second force is RD. It is also producing counterclockwise. RD into, now the perpendicular distance is 26, 27, 28 into 38. And this force 80 into perpendicular distance. This is producing a clockwise rotation. So minus 80 into perpendicular distance is 24, 6, 30, 50. So their sum must be equal to 0. So 12 RC plus 38 RD minus 400 is equal to 0. So 12 RC is equal to minus 38 RD plus 400 is the equation. In term of R, we can see RC is equal to minus 38 over 12 into RD plus 400 over 12. So this is the equation. When you put this equation in this equation, this one equation, this one, so you will get RC or RD is equal to 80 pound. And again, if you put RD 80 pounds, so you will get RC the same 80 pound. So this is how we find the reaction. Now we will talk about the bending. So you can see that this was the scenario. The weightlifter is going to lift this weight and this, it is represented here in diagram. So if you see that due to this 80 pound force and this RC, there will be a movement or a couple that tend to rotate. Similarly here, if we remove these forces, so these forces also produce couple in this direction. So this one is in this direction and this one is in direction. So if we take the section CD that is shown over here. So this is the section CD. So instead of these forces, I have shown the couple. This one couple is shown over here. Similarly, due to this, equal and opposite forces are also producing couple in this direction. So this is shown in this direction. So due to this couple, this beam will tend to bend like this. Clear? So this is the axis. So this beam will tend toward to like this. The upper surface will be in tension and the concave surface will be in compression. Why? Because you can see that if it tends to bend like this, so the upper surface is going to be stretched, elongation, and elongation means that there is a tension, while the lower portion, the length of lower portion is, our concave portion is decreasing, so it means there is a compression. Clear? So we will see this is, now we will define the bending, that what is bending. So whenever a beam is loaded or subject to load or couple, and these couples are in same lateral plane, this movement is acting in the same plane. So due to this movement, there will be a deformation or there will be a bending, and this is known as pure bending. Now in this scenario, the beam is in pure bending. So we will define that prismatic member subjected to equal and opposite couple acting in the same longitudinal plane. So these are the moments that are applied on the same longitudinal plane, and due to this couple, this beam bends. Clear? So this effect is known as bending. are these phenomena, and now this beam is in under pure bending. Any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we will discuss some other type of loadings. So we have already discussed this in our first or second lecture, the different type of loading. The first one is eccentric loading. The second one is transverse loading, and the third one is principle of superposition. Now one load is centric load, not eccentric. Centric load is that load which is passing through the center of any member. For example, this is the rod and this is the center. Clear? And if you applied the load that is passing through the center of this beam, so this type of load is known as centric load. Centric. The load that passing through the center, that is known as centric load. The second one is eccentric load. Now eccentric loads are those load axial loading which does not pass through the section centroid, and it produce internal through section centroid producing internal forces equivalent to axial forces and a couple. Now you can see this is the object or member, and there are two forces are applied, P dash and P, 150 pound, and this is the centroid of this part, and this C dash is the centroidal axis that is passing through the centroid. Now you can see that these are the forces that are not passing through this centroid. So if you want to move this force to be passed through the centroid, so you have moved this force to this much distance, 5 inch. Clear? So whenever you section this and you want to show the force, you want to move this force to this point. So this force will be moved toward this. Now there will be a couple. There will be a movement, and this movement is P times or 150 times multiplied by 5 inch. So there will be a movement at this point. M dash is equal to 750 pound into LB. Now 750 pound is when you multiply 150 pound with 5 inch, so you will get 750 pound into inch movement. Clear? So this type of loading is known as eccentric loaded. Again, those loading are axial loading which do not pass through the centroidal section, which do not pass to the section centroid. These are known as eccentric loading. In order to convert it into centric loading, we have to move that force to the centroid along with a couple, and this couple will be equal to the force multiplied by the distance it moves to the centroidal section. So this type of loading is known as eccentric loading. The second one is transverse loading. So you have seen that concentrated or distributed load distributed transverse load produces internal forces equal to shear or couple. Now this is the cantilever beam, and it is acted upon by a force of P at point A. The length of the beam is given as L. So if due to this force there will be internal forces generated in this beam. So if you want to cut out the section at any point, for example between A and C or at any point, so when you cut the beam, so this was the initial force P. Clear? So whenever you cut it at any, there will be a shear force V, and there will be a reaction moment at the end. So let this distance where you have cut this section is X. X can be any distance. So this P will be equal to V. P will be equal to V. Clear? But it will be, it will be in opposite direction to P. Clear? In order to equilibrium, to make an equilibrium condition, because when you apply force, sum of all force along y direction is equal to 0. So in this scenario you can see the P is acting downward, that will be minus P, and V is upward, that is equal to 0. So V will be equal to P. Now what will be about the moment? So we can also find the moment, their sum must be equal to 0. So if you take at this point, let this point is 1. So moment about point 1 is equal to 0. So what you have to do, this moment, the force into perpendicular distance x is producing counterclockwise, that will be equal to P into x, and this moment is m, that is also counterclockwise, mx or m is equal to 0. So means that m is equal to minus p into x. So we have assumed that this is the direction, but according to our equation m is equal to minus px, it means that movement is counterclockwise direction. So our assumed direction, you can see we have assumed the direction like this. So it is wrong. It means that it is producing movement lie in this direction. So this was all about transverse loading, that whenever you have a loading on beam and if you want to find the force at any section, and so whenever you will cut it, the beam, so there will be a shear force along the movement. So it's saying about the set that it produces internal forces equivalent to shear force and a couple. Clear? Any question?
No, sir.
Okay. So
No, sir.
the third thing is principle of superposition. Now what does principle of superposition means? That the normal stresses due to pure bending may be combined with the normal stresses due to axial loading and the shear stress due to shear loading to find the complete state of stress. So you can see here that this is the force that is applied on the beam. Now in the same scenario, just like in previous examples, so we have seen that whenever a body is applied, okay, let me delete some things. So principle of superposition tell us that you can add normal loading with the stresses that is generated due to pure bending and shear stresses to the shear loading. Just like in our previous example or in previous lectures, we draw the stress matrix, and that stress matrix was sigma xx, tau of xy, tau of xz. Similarly, tau of yx, sigma yy, and tau of yz. Similarly, tau of zx, tau of zy, and sigma zz. Let me erase this. Sigma zz. Now, whenever you will have a scenario in which stresses are produced and that stresses are due to normal stresses. So you can combine them. You can combine the normal stresses. Just like you cannot add these normal stresses with the shear stress. So you can only add the normal stresses that is due to pure bending may be combined with normal stresses only. And whenever you have shear stresses, you can add them, but you cannot combine them with the normal stresses. So that is known as principle of superposition. We will see in the examples that how this principle of superposition exists. Okay, now we will move toward the symmetric member that are in pure bending. We will see this, we will derive the equation of bending moment for the beam that is under pure bending. So you can see here that this is the symmetric, this is a member or prismatic member. Now prismatic members are those members having same cross section throughout all the length, whether you cut it at this point or this point or this point. It will be the same cross section. Clear? So these are known as prismatic members. Now, symmetric members in pure bending. Symmetric members are those members that are similar or image shape with respect to a certain plane. So if you see that if we cut this beam AB at point or at plane C, so this is a plane C. So if we cut the beam with respect to plane C and that is subjected to couple MM dash that is acting on the same plane, you can see that this movement is the same in a same plane. This plane is a longitudinal plane. This plane is a longitudinal plane and this couple is acting on this longitudinal plane. So this is the beam that is acting upon a couple that is in the same longitudinal plane. So, and if we cut the beam at this with respect to this plane CC, so you can see this plane is this beam will be in symmetrical because the loading or the shape or the distance is same from this plane to this plane is same as that of this. That is why these are known as symmetric members. So internal forces in any cross sections are equivalent to the couple. The moment of couple is section bending moment. So if you cut the beam at this plane C, so if I again draw it, so the figure will be like that. So if you cut the beam, so there will be internal forces that will be generated and that at the end their resultant will be the couple. So you can see that this beam is cut over this plane and shown that there is an internal couple. Now from statics, a couple M consists of two equal and opposite forces. Now this couple is that is shown over here is due to two equal and opposite forces. How we will show, I will show you below. But remember that this couple consists of two equal and opposite forces. And from static we also note that sum of component of forces in any direction must be equal to 0. So we will use this condition of equilibrium in order to find the equations. So if you see this figure, just like, let me choose the another color. So if this is the same face of the beam, that is this face, this is this face. So when you cut it, there will be a internal forces, reaction forces due to this which result in this couple. Clear? Now if again I recall you, let this is the x-axis, this is x-axis, this is your y-axis and this is your z-axis, and you have already studied that, for example, this is the member. I will just recall you, this is x, this is y and this is z. So this face is this z direction and y, so this is x face or x plane. So on this x plane there will be one normal stress, that is sigma xx. Clear? One is tau of x in the direction of y and the second force will be like this. Agar मैं इसको, I will draw it over here like this, the face. So this, there will be a normal force sigma xx, there will be a shear force on this surface that will be equal to tau of xy and there will be another shear force that is tau of xz. Clear? So this was just for recalling purpose. Now we will apply the same thing on this surface of the beam, that is section at point C or at plane C. So you can see this was the plane. Let divide this face into small areas, that is shown over here also. So this is the small area having area dA. So let concentrate on any one, for example this one. So this is the small area having area is dA, its area is dA. Now at this small area there will be a perpendicular or normal force that will be in x direction, and this force will be equal to normal stress into the smaller area, because force is equal to stress into area. Stress is equal to force per unit area, and force is equal to stress into area. So this normal stress that is acting on this differential area dA is equal to sigma x into dA. Just like I did that on this face, there is a stress, normal stress xx or sigma x. Clear? So another force that is on this face, there will be two shear forces. One will be tau of x z, tau of x in the direction of z. This is z direction, this is x direction, this is y direction. And there will be another shear force that is tau of x in the direction of y. So you can see this is the force, this in the direction of z, there is a force, shear force, tau of xz in this direction. You can see this is tau of xy, and this was tau of xz. So there is a tau of xz that is acting on this small area. So this shear force is converted, this shear force is equal to tau of xz into differential area A. Similarly, on this differential area, there is also a shear force. I will zoom it so that you can easily understand. So you can see there, this is the shear force that is acting. Now this shear force is equal to, this is xz plane, this plane is xz plane or x plane, sorry, xz plane, not xz plane. This is x, this is z, and this is y. So this plane is x. So tau of x, y. X mean on x plane and in the direction of y, and tau is shear force. So shear force that is acting on x plane but in direction of y. So when you multiply shear force with the differential area, so you will get a shear force. So basically on this small differential area, there is a one normal stress and there are two shear forces. Clear? Clear? Okay, now the same thing is shown over here, but now the stress is like this. In order to show that the sum of all the forces acting on this surface is equal to 0. Clear? So these are the same thing. Means if you take the integral of our whole area, you can find the total stresses. So let's move forward. We will apply the equation of equilibrium. We have stated that sum of all forces along any direction must be equal to 0. So in this scenario, you can see along the x-axis there is the force that is represented as Fx. Fx means force along x direction, and we have stated that sum of all forces along x direction must be equal to 0. So how we will find the sum of all forces? That is integral of all the forces over the entire area. So this is the force, sigma x into dA is the normal force. Clear? When you integrate it, so sum of all the forces along the x direction, that must be equal to 0. We state that. The second thing that is very important and you must be able to understand that is the moment is the same about any axis perpendicular to the plane of couple and zero about any axis contained in the plane. So you can see that this x, this is the plane, longitudinal plane mm dash, and you can see this longitudinal plane contain axis x and y, not z. Z is perpendicular to this longitudinal plane. So it is saying that movement is same about any axis perpendicular to the plane of couple. Now this z axis is perpendicular to this longitudinal plane. So this movement will be actually mz. This will be the movement about z axis. Or we can say that this movement is actually about z axis because this z axis is perpendicular to this plane movement, to this plane containing movement. Now the movement is same about any axis perpendicular to plane of couple and zero about any axis contained in a plane. Now you can see this x-axis is contained in this plane. So movement about x will be equal to 0. Similarly, movement about y must be equal to 0. Why? Because we have been told that movement, that is the movement about any axis, contained in plane will be 0. That's why this y-axis and x-axis that is contained in this plane that is having movement. So movement about these axes will be 0. Only the movement that is only the movement exists on axis that is perpendicular to the plane containing the movement. So only the movement mz is not equal to 0. I hope it's clear to you.
Yes.
Okay. So you can, I will again, I will erase some things so that you can fully understand the concept. So if I zoom it again, if I zoom it like that, so you can see here that this was the differential area dA and it is at a distance of z from this origin z, and similarly this differential area is also at a distance of y from this base. It is y much times above this axis. Clear? So now the stress or this stress, the movement about this stress, this normal stress, this is the normal stress sigma x, and this sigma x into dA is the normal force. Now this normal force is producing a movement about y-axis because this is the force and this is the perpendicular distance. So it tend to rotate it along y-axis. So we say that this movement about y, which is equal to integral of sum of x into dA, and perpendicular distance is z. Clear? The movement. But according to the above mentioned rule that axis containing in a plane that is having movement will be equal to 0. So this my is equal to integral of sigma x into dA into perpendicular distance z. Their product must be equal to 0. Clear? Now the second is that movement about z. We want to find the movement about z. So this normal stress is also producing a movement about z-axis because this is the normal force and the perpendicular distance is this y. It will tend to rotate about z axis, and this movement will be the same as it is rotating in clockwise direction, so that will be equal to minus normal force, which is sigma x into dA, clear, into perpendicular distance, and this perpendicular distance is y. So this mz is equal to integral of minus y sigma x into dA, and it is equal to the same as the moment applied in the longitudinal plane. This mz is equal to m. Any question? I think it's clear. Okay, let me move further. Okay, so basically you must understand how this equation comes out and what is the meaning of these equations. We will use further this equation in our coming slides. So you must be clear about these things. So now we will move toward the bending deformation, that what will be the deformation or what will be the shape of deformation when a beam is subjected to couple or movement. So you can see that beam with a plane of symmetry in pure bending. So let's say you have a symmetrical beam. This beam, this was the initial, let me write it over here. So this is the initial beam, clear, and it is subjected to m dash, two equal and opposite couple. This is point A dash, this is B dash. The upper point is A and B. So due to this loading, I think we should use some, let me select portion so that I can also write it clearly. Notebook. A, B, C, any name. We will have to wait. Okay, so where are the shapes? This is the beam, for example, and that is subjected to couple m dash. This is the couple, two equal and opposite. This is A dash, this is B dash. Similarly, this is A or B. So we will go with the book. So A, it's okay, clear. So this is due to this type of loading, this beam will tend to bend. It will just like this shape. Clear? So this is A dash, B dash. The length below this surface will be increased, and there will be a decrease in length above, because this concave surface is in compression and this convex surface will be in tension. Clear? So there will be increase in the length below because this surface is in tension while this surface is in compression. We can also have this type of scenario that, for example, you have the beam like this and the loading is opposite like this. So in this type, the deformation will be like this. So this now the upper portion is in tension while the lower portion is in compression. But this scenario depends upon the moment that is applied on the beam. So you can see here that this was the beam, this is the uh, frontal view of the beam, and this is the top view of the beam, and this beam is applied moment m dash. Due to this type of movement, the shape will be like this, it will bend like, the beam will bend like this. So you can see that there will be a deformation in the upper and lower boundary. The upper boundary, the length on the upper portion is decreased. So it means that there will be a compressive stress on this surface, or the surface is being compressed, while there is elongation below this surface, or in elongation in A dash B dash. So it means that this surface A dash B dash is under tensile load. Clear? So member remains symmetric, bends uniformly to form a circular arc. So if the beam is applied with this pure couple force, so it will deform and it will tend to form a circular arc. So if you join the end, if you join this A dash, and if you also extend B dash, they will join at a point, and this point is point C. Clear? So length of top decreases and length of bottom, length of top decreases and length of bottom increases. So in between top and bottom, there will be a plane or a line in which there will be no deformation, which will be have the same length as above, as original length of the beam. So that will also lie in between the upper and lower beam. Let this is the line, for example. So where the deformation is equal to 0. In upper portion, deformation exists, but that is negative. Negative mean compression. In below portion or convex portion, elongation exists and it is positive, means tension. In between upper and lower portion, there is a plane or there is axis which remains the same length as that of initial beam. So this is known as neutral surface or neutral axis. So a neutral surface must exist that is parallel to the upper and lower surface and for which length does not change. Clear? So we will also see that this in our this topic. A neutral stress and strain are negative compressive above the neutral plane and positive below the neutral axis. So you can see here this is the neutral axis. So strain above the neutral axis is negative. So it means the stress will also negative. That will be compressive. And the strain below the neutral axis is positive. So the stress will be positive. But this is true for this type of loading. So if you reverse the loading just like this, so it will be now vice versa. The upper portion will be in tension and lower portion will be in compression. I hope you have got this point. Clear? Now we will find what are the strain that are produced in the upper and lower surface. What will be the behavior of strain that is applied? What is the behavior of strain for a beam that is applied under the couple loading? Clear? So again, this is the same thing. So you have seen that the beam was applied with the moment, and due to that moment, the beam bends. Initially, the beam is of length L. This is A dash, B dash, A and B. This is before loading. When you apply moment, it tend to bend like this. The length A dash B dash increase. Clear? And length A B decrease. A dash B dash increases and AB decreases. So we have already explained that there is a plane in between upper and lower portion whose length did not change, and that axis is known as neutral axis. Clear? So let this DE is the neutral axis and this point O is the center. Clear? So if you extend this line A dash B dash, A dash A, and you also extend line B dash B, so they will meet at point C. Clear? As shown in this figure. So distance from neutral axis to the C is represented as rho. Clear? This rho is radius of curvature. We will discuss it in a while. So let the distance between this neutral surface to the center of this curve is rho. And these two lines AC are BC. They are making an angle theta. Clear? So we know that initial length, this length DE, this DE is equal to what? DE is actually the length of the beam. D is the neutral axis, and we have explained that neutral axis does not change. Length of neutral axis does not change. So DE is equal to L. So by using, as this DE is arc, so we can see that DE is equal to L and it will be equal to rho into theta. Clear? This is the original length of the beam, or the original length of beam is rho theta. Now after deformation, or you can say that the length is decreased on the top side. Clear? So this length is decreased on the top side, and if you take any axis about the neutral axis, so the length will be decreased. On this axis the length will be decreasing, on this axis the length will be decreasing, and go on. So maximum decrease in the length will be on the top portion, that is AB. So let this JK is a imaginary or axis where you want to find the strain. You want to find the decrease on this JA. So the new length will be L dash. This length JK, that will be new length because it is changed from L to L dash. Let this length is L dash. Now this L dash will be equal to what? And this L dash or this JK is at a distance of Y from the neutral axis, or L. Clear? It is at a distance of Y from this. So now from CK, the distance CK will be equal to distance of CD is rho. CD was rho. Clear? This CD was rho. Now CJ or CK. This CJ or this CK is same. This is equal to rho minus Y. This total, this from this point till this point, this is rho. Clear? So you want to find distance from this point till this point. So you have to subtract this Y from rho. So this distance rho minus Y. So new length JK, the length of new axis JK, or deformation in the JK is L dash, which is equal to rho minus Y into what? Rho minus Y into theta. Clear? So this was the original length. This is the change or new length. New length. Now you have to find. You know that change in length is equal to. Change will be equal to new length minus original length. So new length is new length is rho minus y into theta, and new is rho theta. So you multiply it. So rho theta minus y into theta minus rho theta. So rho theta will cancel with rho theta. We will left change in length or deformation is equal to minus y into theta. That is given over here. This L dash is equal to rho minus y into theta. So change will be equal to new length minus original length, which is equal to minus y into theta. And you know that strain in x-axis, because this was x, this direction is x, clear, and upper is y. So strain in x direction is equal to change in length divided by original length. Now this change is equal to minus y into theta divided by original length, which is L. So V comes out to be strain is equal to minus y theta over L. So it means that strain varies with y. So as you move above, the strain will increase. Clear? So this was the neutral axis. As you move away from neutral axis, so strain will increase. So at this plane there will be strain, this plane, this plane, this plane, but maximum strain will be on the top. Clear? So as the top is the strain will be maximum, but it will be negative, means that there will be a contraction. Similarly, the y is also varies below the neutral axis, but there is a tension. So we can say that this is maximum strain will be here and here. I will write epsilon m. Epsilon m will be maximum, but here the value will be negative, and here the value will be positive. Clear? And again you can see that if you put y below the neutral axis, so the value of y will be negative. So negative will be positive. So the strain below the neutral axis will be positive, means the lower portion is in tension. Clear? Yes. Okay, so we see that strain is equal to change in length divided by original length, and change in length is minus y into theta, and original length is L, and this original length is already rho into theta. Clear? This is shown over here. So in short, strain in x direction is equal to minus y over rho. Strain is equal to minus y over rho. Clear? So what does it mean? It means that strain varies linearly with y. If y increases, strain increases. If y decreases, strain decreases. So from this equation you can also find the maximum strain as well. So let me erase again something from this. So I will write another marker. Okay, so we have shown that the y is distance from neutral axis to above. Now this y will be maximum at this point. So let distance from neutral axis to the topmost layer or to the bottommost layer, this distance is C. Clear? So C is maximum if I replace y with C. So epsilon x will be equal to epsilon m, means maximum strain. So maximum strain is equal to, इस y को replace कर दें c से, so that will be equal to c over rho. This is for upper portion. For lower portion, that will be equal to C over rho. Clear? So you have understand that this is maximum strain epsilon m, that is equal to C over rho. Or if you want to find the rho, radius of curvature, so we can have formula C over maximum strain. Clear? Now again, if you put the value of, okay, let me write it again over here. मुझे ये आप बताते जाएं, ये क्या था? Epsilon x is equal to minus y over rho. ठीक है ना? So maximum strain was C over rho. Okay, why C over rho? Because from neutral axis to the uppermost layer, this y is positive, and from C to the lower portion, this y will be the negative. So maximum strain will be, if you put this y as minus C, because the maximum strain will be in tension. There will be strain in compression, but that will be contraction. So maximum strain will be equal to C over rho. And again, this rho is equal to maximum strain over C. We have, let me write, this is equation 1, this is equation 2, and this is equation 3. So this is strain in x direction, this is maximum strain, and this is radius of curvature. So if you put this strain, the value of the value of radius of curvature in equation 1, so this will be epsilon x will be equal to minus y over epsilon m into epsilon m over c. So that will be equal to minus y, y into c over, I think there is a confusion over here. Let me check it. We did mistake in equations. Minus y over rho. Y is equal to minus y over rho. This is clear. So C over rho. C over rho. This is also clear. And this rho is equal to C over m. This rho is equal to C over, this rho is equal to C over m. So epsilon x is equal to, rho is equal to C over epsilon m. Rho is equal to C over epsilon m. We did mistake over here. So if rho over here, that will be equal to, so you people are also sleeping. So this rho is equal to C over epsilon m. And when you put over here in this equation, so that will be C over rho m, and that will be equal to minus y over C into epsilon m. So epsilon x is equal to minus y over C into epsilon m. So if you have maximum strain, you want to find the strain at any point above the neutral axis. So you can find the strain by using this equation. So again, you can see that there are 4 variables: epsilon x, y, c, epsilon m. If you know any 3, you can find the 4th one. Clear? So remember this equation as well. So this is epsilon x is equal to minus y over c into epsilon m. Clear? So again, this is the cross-sectional area that is shown, that this is the neutral axis, and this is from neutral axis to the topmost, the distance is C, and it is maximum distance. And if you move from the neutral axis to above, let this distance is y. Clear? Now this slide was all about strain that is due to couple or moment loading in a beam, and that moment is in a same plane. Now as there is strain in the upper and lower portion, there will be strain in this portion, concave, as well as in convex. So in concave portion, the strain is negative, so means there will be a compressive stress. And in convex portion, it is positive, strain is positive, so there means there is a tensile stress or tensile stress. So how you will find these stresses? So again, in short, as we know that stress in x direction or stress in x direction is equal to modulus of elasticity into strain in x direction. So from previous slide, this strain in term of maximum stress, maximum strain, this if I write E same, and this epsilon was minus y over c into epsilon m. So this stress will be equal to sigma x. Clear? Sigma x. Again, you have write this strain in term of this sigma x is equal to E into epsilon x, but you have written your epsilon x in term of maximum strain. So this strain will be also maximum. Clear? So again, this strain is linearly varying with the stress. Sorry. Okay, this is the same x, not m. This is the same x is equal to minus y over c. Now this E into epsilon m. Again, if let me write this, sigma x is equal to minus y over c into E into epsilon m. Clear? Yes. So E into epsilon m is sigma m. So stress is equal to minus y over c. Just like you have written that epsilon x is equal to minus y over c into epsilon m. So you can also write epsilon x is equal to minus y over c into sigma m, where sigma m is the maximum stress. Clear? So this stress also linearly vary with y. So again, if this is the neutral axis, so from this equation, sigma x is equal to minus y over c into sigma m. If y is equal to 0, so if you put y is equal to 0 over here, so 0 divided by anything is equal to 0, so stress at neutral surface will be 0. If you increase y any value, so that there will be stress, negative stress. So this negative stress will be maximum when this y will become equal to c. So this sigma x will be equal to sigma m. Clear? So if y is equal to c, y is actually distance from neutral axis to anywhere you want to find the stress or strain. So if y becomes c, so then this stress is sigma x will be minus sigma m, and this minus mean negative sign, compression. So you can see that stress linearly varies, increases, and it is maximum at the top. So this sigma m is the maximum stress, and the direction will be over here, means that it is in compression. Similarly, if sigma x, if y is increasing downward below the neutral axis, so it will be increasing, but if y is equal to c below, So if you put y is equal to minus c over here, so sigma x will be equal to sigma m, not minus, positive. So means that stress linearly varying, and it will be the maximum. It will be the maximum at the outer layer. So this was all about the stress distribution in beam that is under bending or couple. Clear? Did you understand about the stress distribution in the beam? Okay, so till now we have explained that stress linearly vary with y. Clear? So if y is increasing, stress will increase. So above the neutral surface, if y is increasing, so c is the maximum distance from the neutral axis to the outer surface. So stress will be the maximum, and that is sigma m. And this sigma m will be equal to this sigma m will be equal to this sigma m will be equal to sigma x. This will be the maximum stress. Similarly, below the neutral surface, the stress will be the maximum, but it will be positive. So means there is tensile stress. So this here sigma. So okay. So again, I will repeat that stress linearly varies with respect to y. If y is increasing, stress will increase. So at neutral surface, the stress will be 0. Clear? So maximum stress will occur on the both upper and lower surfaces, but on the upper surface it will be negative and compressive, while the lower surface it will be positive and tensile stress. Now from our previous equation, static equilibrium condition, that we discussed that f of sum of all forces along x direction must be 0, and we wrote that this is equal to integral of sigma x into that small differential area that must be equal to 0. Now this stress is actually sum of all forces is equal to 0. Now we can see that this stress is actually minus y over c into sigma m into dA. That must be equal to 0. So y and c is sigma maximum is a constant value, c is also a constant value. So I will bring them out. So sigma m over c minus, and that will be equal to integral of y into dA. That must be equal to 0. Now you can see sigma m is maximum value, that cannot be 0. Y is also c is also a constant and maximum value, that cannot be 0. It means that integral of y into dA is equal to 0. So integral of y into dA is the first moment of inertia. So first moment of inertia that is passing through the first moment of inertia about the neutral axis is equal to 0. So this is also proof. This if someone asks you to define how first moment of inertia about the neutral axis comes out to be 0. So this here is a proof that sum of all forces along x direction must be equal to 0. So then you have to put the stress or force in x direction, and you have to put all the values. So from that, at the end you comes out with the equation that integral of y into dA is equal to 0. So integral of y into dA is the first moment of inertia, and that is equal to 0. So first, this shows you that whenever a beam is given with a neutral axis, so its first moment of inertia about the neutral axis must be 0. Clear? So here it is also given that first moment with respect to neutral plane or neutral axis must be equal to 0. Therefore, neutral plane must pass through section centroid. And that neutral section must pass through centroid. If it is not passing through centroid, then first moment of inertia will be not 0. For example, if this is the beam and this is center, cross section of the beam, and this is center, and if this neutral axis is passing through centroid, so in this scenario the first moment of inertia about this neutral axis will be equal to 0. But if this is the center, for example, and this is your neutral axis, for example, so in this case first moment of inertia about this neutral axis will not be equal to 0. Clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So again I will erase some things from screen. And from our static equilibrium condition that sum of all forces along x direction must be equal to 0, we came with a conclusion that first moment of inertia about neutral axis that passing through the centroid of the section must be equal to 0. Now we already discussed that moment that is about z axis is equal to m, and that was equal to integral of minus y x into dA in our earlier slides. That moment about z that is equal to m, which is equal to integral of minus y into sigma x into dA, that is equal to m, not equal to 0. That is equal to m. So again this integral of minus y and sigma is equal to minus y over c into sigma m into dA. So again sigma and c is constant value that will be outside, so sigma m over c integral of minus y that will be plus y square into dA, and that is equal to m. Now this term integral of y square into dA is the second moment of inertia about the neutral axis. Clear? And we represent this integral of y square into dA is equal to I. So I will just write m is equal to sigma m over c into I. Clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, recording on की है sir?
Yes, the recording is on. Okay, so let me check. Okay. So moment is equal to sigma m into I divided by c, where sigma m is the maximum stress, I is the second moment of inertia about neutral axis, c is the distance from neutral axis to the topmost or bottommost layer, depends upon. Clear? So if I divide I above and below, or if I divide the numerator and denominator with I, so I will get sigma m is equal to c over sorry, there is a mistake. I was confused. Okay, so this was the equation. This m is equal to moment is equal to sigma m into I over c. So I want to find the sigma m. So sigma implies that sigma m maximum stress will be equal to m into c divided by I. This is the equation of bending stress for the beam that is applied with the couple or moment m, and this stress is the maximum stress. Clear? Which is given over here as well. This sigma m is equal to mc over I. So again this sigma m is equal to mc over I. So if I divide the above term by C and below term by C, there will be no effect. So this sigma m will become equal to m over I by C. Now this I by C is represented as S. S is equal to I by C, and this is very important term. This S is known as section modulus. Section modulus. How it is important, that is explained in a slide that is in slide number 9 or 10. So we will explain this, the importance of section modulus. So now maximum stress is equal to M over S, where S is equal to I over C. Clear? Any question till now?
No, sir.
Okay. Now you know that sigma x is equal to minus y over c into sigma m. So if you put the value of sigma m, which is m over s, or just you mc over I will show over here. Okay. Sigma m is equal to mc over I. Clear? And sigma x is equal to minus y over c into sigma m. So you have to put the value of sigma m over here. So that minus y over c into mc over I. So CC will cancel. So sigma x comes out to be minus m into y divided by I. This equation and the above equation, both are same. You can see that this is C. C is the maximum distance from the neutral axis to the top. So definitely it will yield you the maximum stress. Now this sigma x varies with this y. Y is the distance from neutral axis to the top or below. And this minus sign exists when you move above, that will be, this y will be positive, and when you move below, this y distance will be negative. So the same thing, same equation, but the difference is that this is for maximum stress and this is for the stress at any point from the neutral axis, either above or below. I think it's clear.
Yes, sir.
And this is the equation, bending equation. This is the equation for finding the bending stresses in the beam when it is subjected to a couple load or moment load in the same longitudinal plane. This was all about the stress in the beam under pure bending. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we will move toward to define section modulus. So we discussed that sigma m is equal to mc divided by I, and then we discussed that maximum stress is equal to m over I by c, and then we said that this I by c is equal to S, which is known as section modulus. So stress, maximum stress is equal to m over S. Now you want to have minimum stresses in the beam. Clear? So for that you must have higher section modulus. If section modulus is high, then the stresses generated in the beam will be the lower one. So you have to, section modulus is the modulus of the beam. If its value is high, then the stresses generated in that beam will be low. Clear? So the maximum normal stress due to bending is equal to sigma m, which is equal to m over s. If s is higher, so sigma m will be lower. So a beam with larger section modulus will have lower maximum stress. Now, for example, consider if you have a rectangular beam. cross section is rectangular. This is its breadth and this is its height. Clear? So, and this is the center. As this is rectangular, so center will be at a distance of h by 2. Clear? This will be h by 2 and this portion is also h by 2. Now, we know that section modulus is equal to I over C. So, for beam having breadth B and height h, the second moment of inertia is equal to BH cube over 12. Clear? So this I for rectangular beam is equal to 1 over 12 BH cube. While C is what? C is the distance from neutral axis to the topmost, and that is h by 2. So when you put h by 2, section modulus comes out to be 1 over 6 BH cube. Now area of this rectangular cross section is equal to B into H. Clear? So if I write 1 over 6 BH cube as B into H square, I can write it as well. So this 1 over 6 will be 1 over 6, sorry, this is H square. And this BH is area and no. This is 1 over 6 BH cube. Clear? And we want to have, acha, ye H is case, 1 H will be cancelled. This is 1 over 2 BH square. Clear? So again I have to erase this thing. There is an error. So this is 1 over 6 BH. No, so BH is area and H is height. So section modulus for rectangular cross section is 1 over 6 into AH. Now the question is that section modulus for rectangular beam is equal to 1 over 6 into H. Now if you have been given as example that these are the two beams having height, one having height is equal to 6 inch and breadth is 4 inch, and the second is height 8 and breadth 3 inch, both having area 24 inch square. Now both the beams have same area. So what will you prefer to choose? Which beams you will prefer to choose? Because both have the same area. So you will prefer to the beam having higher height. Because in this both scenarios, area is the same. But you know that section modulus is equal to 1 over 6 A into H. Now the beam having higher height will be selected and will be the safer than that of the same area beam with lower height. Clear? So it means that if you have two beams that are of same area, but you have to select that beam having high height. Clear? So if height is higher, so definitely the value of section modulus for this beam will be higher than this. Clear? So S section modular, let this is 1 and this is 2. So section modulus of 1 will be less than section modulus of 2. So definitely sigma M2 will be greater than sigma M1. Clear? So sorry. Sigma M1, again you people are sleeping. This S2 is higher, so sigma M2 will be less than sigma M1. Stresses in M1 or this beam 1 will be higher because it's having lower section modulus, not area. Section modulus of 1 is lower than section modulus. I have written section 1 modulus is lower than section 2. So stress in section 2 will be minimum as compared to the stress in section 1. So sigma M1 will be greater than sigma M2. Clear? Any question? So again, in short, if you conclude that, so a beam with higher section, a beam having higher height, or a beam with higher height will be having higher section modulus. So less stresses will be generated in that beam. There is another example of short beam and wide flange beam. So you can see that this is S beam. S beam means short flange beam and wide beam means wide flange beam. So if I draw the beam over here, I will draw it roughly. So if this is the beam, let's say for example if this is the beam, so this upper portion, this portion and this portion, this is known as flange. If I draw it, let me erase this line and also erase this. So if I draw it in 3-dimensional, so this plate will be the top plate, this is the bottom plate, and so on. So in 3-dimensional, so this about this portion, this top one is known as flange, and this below portion is also known as flange. Clear? And the middle portion, or this middle plate, or this portion, thin portion, this is known as web. Clear? This is the breadth or width of the beam. This is from flange to flange, from top of the flange to the bottom of the flange. This is known as height of the beam. Again, if I draw it like this shortly, so the thickness, this thickness of the flange is known as TF, which is thickness of flange. This thickness of web is known as TW and known as thickness of web. Clear? So this is short beam, this is wide beam, short flange beam and wide flange beam. You can see its flange is short and you can see its flange is wide. Clear? They are shown both having the same neutral axis. Clear? So now between two beams with same cross-sectional area, the beam with greater depth will more effective in resisting bending. Structural steel beams are designed to have large section modulus. Clear? So now this is the short flange beam, this is wide flange beam. Clear? So in between these two beams, which will you prefer to select? Any answer?
Sir, this case, both.
Which?
So stress,
Which one?
sir, wider one.
Wider one. But you can see both will have same, as the height is same. Wider one will be the safer one, but actually due to its higher weight of the beam, the weight of the beam will also increase. So you have to consider, being an engineer, you will have to design a beam or any system that should be of lesser weight. Again, by putting the material into your design does not mean that it will be safer. It will also again increase the weight. So you have to design, both the beam have same height, but this will having less weight. Although this will be more safer, but it will increase the weight of the structure. So you will have to choose or you will have to keep in mind that the weight of the structure should not increase as well. Clear? So conclusion is that section modulus is important in design parameters. So a beam with higher section modulus will have lesser stress, or it will resist more to the stress. Clear? We will also see in design problems, when we design a problem, we will see that you can also calculate section modulus. For example, I will describe in a short that stress is equal to m over s. Clear? So if the stress is given and moment is given, you can calculate s. When you have the value of s, you have table properties of American Standard Shape, that is at the end of the book as appendix C. So you will have any value from here, the s value, then you have to simply look at the value of s in this table. If any value that matches with this any one, for example, if your value that you have calculated above comes out to be this or closer to this, so you can select this short flange beam 510 by 120. So this is how you design the beam. Now this is property of American Standard Shapes, and this is available at the end of the book. So the shape, this short flange beam, sorry, you can see this is the beam, this is BF. BF means width of the flange. D is the height of the beam. TF is the thickness of flange. TW is the thickness of beam. This is x-axis, this is y-axis. So for example, S610 by 180, short flange beam 610 by 180 means that it's having area 22900 square millimeter. Total height is 622 millimeter. This height will be 622 millimeter. Width is 204. This width will be 204. Thickness of flange TF will be 27.7. Thickness of web will be 20.7. Moment of inertia about, second moment of inertia about x-axis will be this one. Section modulus will be this one. Radius of gyration that we will discuss later on. Okay. Similarly, about y-axis, second moment of inertia is this one. Section modulus is this one, and radius of gyration is this one. So this table show you the properties of standard shapes that are produced by American industries, steel industries. So by using this table, you can select the required beam of your required design. Clear? Any question till now?
Sir, is section modulus x direction, y direction?
This varies. Okay, again, I have solved some problems related to this chapter number 4 that are available. So you can observe in that I XX is different and IYY is different. How? So if you watch that video of that problem in which IXX is also explained and IYY is also explained, so you will be able to understand that why these are different. So based on that, section modulus about y-axis, because section modulus is equal to I over C. So if you are going to take IXX means second moment of, or IX means second moment of inertia about x-axis. So it will be SXX or SX. So if you are going to find SY, so it will be IYY over C. Again, this can be cleared if you watch that problem carefully, that how this differs. Because in that problem, you have been asked to find the moment about x-axis or moment about y-axis, or stress about x-axis or stress about y-axis. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. Next topic is deformation in transverse section. So as discussed previously, that this was the beam and that is bent due to the movement as shown over here, that is m and m dash, and this movement was about z axis. Clear? So due to this movement there will be a contraction in the upper portion and there is expansion in the lower portion, or above the neutral axis the upper surface contracts, or there is a shortage in length, or you can say the length is decreasing, while below the neutral, this is the neutral plane or neutral axis, so below the neutral plane the length is going to increase. So due to that we discussed that there is a radius, this is the radius of curvature, and we discussed this thing in the above slide. I will show you here. So we here obtain radius of curvature equation, we here obtain the strain in the x direction, which is sigma epsilon x is equal to minus y over c into epsilon m. Epsilon m is the maximum strain. Clear? So again we will use this equation. I will write down again. So from that we discussed that radius of curvature was equal to epsilon m over c. Let me check it. Epsilon m over c. Epsilon sorry, c over epsilon m. Let me correct it as well. So you have to memorize it as well. So epsilon m is epsilon is equal to c over epsilon m. So now if 1 over, if I take inverse, so 1 over rho is equal to epsilon m over c. Now this 1 over rho is known as curvature. So if you want, if anyone asks you what is curvature, so 1 over rho is equal to 1 over rho is actually a curvature, and you can also define that curvature is the reciprocal of radius of curvature. So 1 over rho is equal to epsilon m over c. Now from this formula of curvature, 1 over rho is equal to epsilon m over c, and if this c remains the same, you know that epsilon m is equal to sigma m over E, as maximum stress is equal to E into epsilon m. So epsilon m will be equal to sigma m over E. So that will give you maximum strain. So if you put the value of this maximum strain, that is sigma m over E over here, so 1 over rho will become equal to sigma m over EC. Clear? Now also you know that this sigma m is equal to mc over I. So again when you put the value of sigma m over here, so that will be equal to 1 over EC, and instead of sigma m that will become mc over I. So cc will cancel out, so 1 over rho, which is curvature will be equal to m over EI. So if you know the moment, you know the material modulus of elasticity, and if you know the second moment of inertia, so you can easily calculate the curvature. Now this was something about the curvature. We will now discuss that what is an elastic curvature. So if you see that there is a contraction in the length and above the neutral axis, and expansion in length in the below the neutral axis. Again, if you see that the length is decreasing longitudinally along x-axis in upper portion, but in cross section you can see that this length is increasing. Similarly, length increasing in longitudinal axis below the neutral surface, but again in transverse direction the length is decreasing. So it is increasing and it is decreasing in cross or transverse portion. Clear? So due to expansion in the upper portion above the neutral axis in transverse direction and contraction in below transverse section, this creates an effect that is known as anti-elastic curvature. So expansion above the neutral surface and contraction below it cause as in plane curvature. So you can see previously for curvature we just take this and we extended this, but now due to transverse expansion and contraction, if you join them they will meet at point C dash. So from neutral axis to dash this C dash, because these planes are this transverse direction expansion and contraction also produce an in plane curvature, and that is represented as rho dash, and this rho dash is equal to rho over nu. Now I will explain it how. So actually whenever in Poisson ratio we have told that strain in lateral plane, if for example again I will explain just by using example. So if this is a body that is subject to stress in x direction or force in x direction, so it will produce strain in x direction as well as it will produce strain in y direction, which is contraction, and we discussed that this is equal to minus nu time epsilon xx. Similarly in z direction there will be a contraction, and that is also equal to minus nu time epsilon xx. So due to this anti-elastic curvature, so this will be equal to radius of curvature divided by nu. So similarly, as 1 over rho is curvature, so 1 over rho dash will be anti-elastic curvature, and it will be equal to nu times 1 over curvature. Clear? So I think this is clear to you now. And this expansion above the neutral surface, that is in transverse direction, and this contraction below the neutral surface in transverse direction, it causes an in-plane curvature, and this is known as anti-elastic curvature. So this anti-elastic curvature is 1 over rho dash, and that is equal to nu times 1 over rho. So this was deformation in transverse section. Next we will move to sample problem, and this problem is already solved by me in my problem videos, but I will also go here again. So you can see this is a member that is fixed at one end, and the moment is given over here, that is 3 kilonewton. So due to this moment, this will tend to bend. So there will be tension or increase in length in upper portion, and in below portion there will be a contraction, so means compression. The cross section of this member is given as it is T shape, so width is 90, the lower portion is 30, total height is 60. Clear? So in question it is given that a cast iron machine part is acted upon by 3 kilonewton into meter couple, knowing that E is 165 gigapascal and neglecting the effect of fillet. So you have to neglect this effect, this and this effect, this fillet effect. You have to determine the maximum tensile and compressive stresses. So maximum tensile stress will be in top portion, and maximum compressive force will be in below portion. So in both cases we will use MC over I formula, because C is the maximum distance from center to the outermost. Clear? So for this problem we have to find the centroid of these members. So we cannot identify how to find the centroid. So there is a method which is used to find the centroid, and this is the formula: y dash is equal to sum of y dash into a divided by sum of area. So what we will do is we will have to divide it into two portions. This will be the portion 1 and this will be the portion 2. Now if I expand this formula, y dash is equal to y for member 1, this will be y1 dash into a1 plus y2 dash into a2. Now what is y1 dash and y2 dash? So y1 is this member, so the center of this member 1. So this is 20, so it will be at the center will be this. But this y1 will be from this baseline to the middle of first member, and this is the y1 dash. And if you see this is 40, so this y1 dash will be 50. Clear? Similarly for y2 it will be the half of, so half of 40 will be 20 mm. So this y2 dash is 20 mm. The area A1 will be 90 into 20. So this is width is 90 and thickness is 20. Similarly, area A2 will be equal to 40 multiplied by 30. So when you will put all the value, so this will be the given and divide by total area. So total area is equal to A1 plus A2. So when you solve this, you will get y dash, and this y dash will be the distance from this base to the required value of y. We will see below. So let's start with its solution. So now you can see you have divided it into two portions. This is portion 1 and this is portion 2. So y1 dash is 50 because the area, half of this 20 member 1 will be 10 this and 10 this. So 10 plus from the base it is 40. So y1 dash is 50. Clear? And y2 dash is 20 as discussed above. Clear? Now we have area A1 which is 20 into 90. This is A1. Y1 dash for one member it is 50. Similarly for area for 2 which is 40 multiplied by 30 and 1200 square millimeter, and y2 dash is 20. So if you multiply this 1800 with 50, so you will get y1 dash A1 which is 90 into 10 raised to power 3. Similarly for second member you have to multiply area A2 which is 1200 with y2 dash. So when you multiply it you will get this. Now the sum of area A1 and A2 which is equal to 3000. You can add them, you will get this. And sum of y dash A, if you sum both this you will get 114 into 10 raised to power 3. Now the distance of centroid from this base is given by formula y dash, and if you put the value 114 into 10 raised to power 3 divided by sum of area, so you will get 38. It means that the centroid of this member is 38 millimeter away from this base line. So center will lie this. You can see this is y dash. Means centroid of this member lies at a distance of 38 millimeter from this base line. So we have find out this centroid. Now you can see that there are two members 1 and 2. So again sigma is equal to m into c divided by I. Now you have centroid, you can find out the distance from center to the topmost for finding the maximum tensile stress, and distance from centroid to the lower, that will give you the compressive strength. So we have moment, we can also find this C, but we do not have I. So we will find the I. Whenever, and the formula for this I is equal to I sum of all, because there are two members. So I dash plus AD square. Now what is I? I is the second moment of inertia, uh, of any member. So there are two members, so the moment of inertia of this one plus area of this member 1 into d square. Now d square, what is d? D is the distance of the first member centroid, first member center with respect to centroidal axis. So this distance is d. Similarly, you have to find the moment of inertia of this two member plus area into d. So let's solve it. It will be more clear to you in a while. So up till now we have calculated out the distance of centroidal axis from the base, that comes out to be 38. Now we will find the moment of inertia I. So there are two members. So if you look at this I is equal to moment of inertia plus AD square. So for any members in which the centroidal axis, if the centroidal axis, this formula, actually this formula I dash plus AD square is only valid when your centroidal axis is not, or your neutral axis is not passing through centroid. So for that we will use this. If your, for example, if this is the member and its neutral axis and it is center, so if your neutral axis is passing through centroid, so in this case d will become 0, so this term will be 0, just in rectangular section. But if your centroidal, let's say for example, if your centroid is this and your neutral axis is not passing through centroid, so in this case there will be a distance d. So for finding the moment of inertia in such case, so you will use this formula I dash plus a into d square. So let's solve this. Again, the moment of inertia is equal to, for rectangular shape, this first part is rectangular and the second portion is also rectangular. So we have the sum of these. So we will start from the first part. So you can see the first part is I dash. So I is the moment of inertia for rectangle. It is equal to 1 over 12 BH cube. So its B is 90, that is given above. Let me show also. So B is 90, height is 20. So 1 over 12 B into H cube plus area of A1. Area of A1 is 1800. So it is also given as 1800. Now D square. So the center of this portion lies this, from this point till this point. This is 20, because this is 20. So sorry, not 20. This, from this point is, it is 20 and half of this will be 10. So 10, and from the center to this point is 2 mm. How? Because the total distance over here given as 40, clear, and y dash is at a distance of 38. So there is a gap of 2 mm. This gap is 2 mm. So 10 plus 2 is 12. So d square. D is in this case is 12. So 12 square. Similarly for the lower portion, 1 over 12, breadth is 30 and height is 40. So that is 1 over 12 BH cube plus area of A2. Area of A2 is 1200. And D, what is D? So its center is 20 distance and this y dash is 38. So when you subtract 38, when you subtract 20 minus 38 minus 20, so this is 38, and when you subtract this 20, so the remaining distance from this point till this point, this is D2 for member 2, and this comes out to be 18 mm. So when you put 18 and you take square, and when you calculate this, you will get I is equal to 868 into 10 raised to power 3 mm 4. This is mm 4, and when you convert into meter it will be this. Now we have m value, we can also find c, and we have I value as well. So we will first find the maximum stress which is at the outer surface at point A. Clear? So as we know that maximum stress is equal to mc over I, we have m, we have I, we will now check what is the value of c. So you can see that this c is at a distance of 38 mm. This distance was y dash, and that is 38 mm. 38 mm. So this distance was 2, this gap, plus this distance was 20. So total from this point to this point, this centroidal, this C is equal to 22 mm. And when you convert into meters, so that will be 0.022. So sigma A is equal to m. M is given as 3 kilonewton into meter. CA is the distance from neutral axis to the topmost layer, that is 0.022, and I is also calculated above here. So when you solve this, you will get the value of stress, maximum stress at point A is 76 megapascal. Similarly for point B, again this formula sigma is equal to C mc over I. Now C is this distance from neutral axis. This is already 38, but if you are taking downward, so that will be minus 38 mm, and it will be minus 0.038. So this formula will be sigma B is equal to mcb over I. So this is the CB distance. Clear? So 3 kilonewton minus 3 kilonewton into CB distance over I. So when you solve this, this comes out to be minus 131.3 megapascal. Now this minus show that lower portion is in compression or under compressive stress, while the value of sigma A is positive. This means that upper portion is in tensile stress. So we have solved the first portion, in which we have been asked to find the maximum stresses in the upper and lower portion. Now the second portion is to calculate the radius of curvature. So as we know that 1 over rho, which is curvature, is equal to m over EI. Now we have m value, we have E that is given in the question, we have I. If you put it, the curvatures come out to be 20.95 into 10 to the power 3. And if you take reciprocal, so radius of curvatures come out to be 47.7 meter. So this was all about today's lecture. I hope you have enjoyed. In next video, we will discuss the bending of member that is made of several material. We will see this theory and how to tackle with this such type of problems. Then we will discuss reinforced concrete beam and how to solve these problems, how to tackle with these problems. So all will be discussed in the coming lecture. If you like the video, kindly subscribe, like and share. Thank you.